Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to create your own aesthetic in your Notion. And don't worry, you don't need to be creative to do this because I'm going to be breaking down each step into a simple formula that you can follow that is going to really help just elevate your entire Notion. I'm Lindsay, owner of Scorpio Rising Media, a boutique production and creative content agency, and I use Notion for every facet of my life, from personal to business. I even sell my own Notion templates on my shop page, so go check those out if you already want some built for you templates. Otherwise, if you're more of the DIY type, then follow along and I'll show you how to make your own. All right, so the first place you're gonna wanna get started with building an aesthetic Notion is creating a dashboard page. Dashboard pages are sort of like the cover page to your system, and that is where your aesthetic's really gonna shine. So I personally have multiple dashboard pages based on what system setup. I have a business planner in Notion, so I've got a dashboard page for that. I also have a dashboard page for my personal planner Notion system, and then I also have a dashboard page for my wedding planner Notion system. Most people probably only have one dashboard page, but if you're someone like me, you've got a lot going on, a lot of like different things that you want to compartmentalize in your life, not a bad idea to sort of separate it out almost by thinking of them as like separate planners. And therefore you can create like separate cover pages or separate dashboards for each planner. So the dashboard page is where you're gonna have the most opportunity to really establish the vibe, establish the theme that you're going for your Notion. And then your sub pages can kind of, contain the same elements, but that dashboard page is really gonna set the tone. So let me show you some elements that I incorporate into all my dashboard pages that really elevate and bring that aesthetic. All right, so this is my business planner dashboard, and this is actually very similar to the business planner I have in my shop if you wanna go check that out. But this is what I use to run and operate my business. It's a great overview to just kind of see everything that's going on in my business. And it also, like I was saying, helps to set the tone of the aesthetic. And my aesthetic for this dashboard is very much what my brand visuals are for my business. But if you're doing this for like a personal reason, you're just having a personal Notion, then you can get even more creative with it and choose something that is more aligned with your personal style. All right, so the first element that I recommend for bringing some aesthetic to your Notion is breaking down each section into columns. So you'll see at the top here, I actually have this broken down into 3 columns. And then below that, we have another section that's broken down into 5 columns. Underneath that, I have a banner section, so that's just a single column. And then underneath that, we've got 2 columns again. And then below that is my quarterly breakdown broken down into 4 columns. And the great thing about columns is that you can play with the balance of them, so they don't necessarily have to be split 50-50. You'll see like with this, all you have to do is click, oops, let me get that. If you hover over the middle there, you'll see this like line appear, and then you can play with a different balance of that to really change that up. So it's a little off balance, just helps to break up the page, especially if you have a lot going on. So when it comes to your dashboard page, or really any page you're working with, I encourage you to think of it in sections, and then within those sections, see if you can break them down into columns, because like I said, that's gonna provide a lot of visual diversity, help break things up. Another way to further break things up is going to be using colored blocks. Now, I actually don't have any examples in my business dashboard. Let me head over to, so this is my life dashboard. Sort of similar in a way, we have the 3 columns set up here as well. And then you're gonna see that I do apply some of these colored blocks, as I call them, as another way to sort of break up the section. So over here on this sticky note section, I made a colored block. It's gray, and I put a list in there, as well as underneath, let's see, yeah, underneath here, I also put the databases into accordions. And I also made those a full color to just, again, add a little visual diversity, add a little color. And to do that, in case you didn't already know, let me show you how to do that real quick. All right, so to add a colored block, all you're gonna do is you are going to add a toggle list. and then go ahead and just write something in there. Perfect. And now click on that toggle list and go ahead and click color, whatever color you want to use. And now, unless you want to keep it as a toggle list, maybe you don't, maybe you want to make it into like a checklist or bullet points or whatever. So to do that, you can just go to turn into and then click text, and then now it is a text block with that color. And that's currently the only way to add a color block. You have to go through the toggle list feature. Hopefully Notion will update that and you won't have to do that entire workaround, but for now, that's how you do it. But yeah, adding these colored blocks, again, another great way to just sort of break up the sections of your Notion. Now, the ultimate way to help break things up and to really just elevate your overall Notion is to add some images. Notion does provide you with a direct link to Unsplash. You'll see if you just if you go to add image, there, and then you can click Unsplash, and then you can actually search for any image you want. I don't love this user experience, only because you can't really see the full image. So I'll just go to unsplash.com and pull some images from that, and then I'll make like an album, and then I'll just download the images and put them into my Notion. But you can do whatever's easiest for you. I just find that way is a little bit better for sourcing images. And I'm going to provide you guys with a list of my own personal keywords. I'm going to put that up on the screen now. So go ahead, screenshot it, pause it, write some down. But these are great keywords for finding images that really lend themselves to setting a vibe. They might not be your personal vibe, but hopefully you get an idea of what's a good keyword to finding stock images. I usually try to avoid portraits. I go for more landscapes or flat lays or close-ups of objects. That way it's really focused on just setting a visual theme and you're not distracted by faces. But you know, I definitely will add some like personal photos every now and then to my Notion. For the most part, a lot of my images are just stock images that I use to help set the vibe. So once I have some images in like an album on Unsplash, that's gonna help me sort of begin to establish a color palette that I'm gonna use throughout my Notion. I usually try to stick to like 1 to 3 colors really. Notion comes with 10 set colors when you're setting your fonts or setting like background blocks, things like that. You have 10 colors to choose from. I'm hoping that Notion potentially changes that, allows you to customize it a little more, because I do find myself kind of just using the same colors. I usually stick with like the gray or the brown. So it'd be nice to change it up a little bit, maybe play with the hues a little bit. That'd be awesome. But for now, when it comes to the colors that they've given me, like I said, I stick with gray, I stick with brown, and then I'll usually incorporate other colors through my graphics and my images. But for the most part, I try to stick with just a few colors. So you'll see with my business dashboard page, we're going for a lot of like earth tones. They're a little more warmer. We've got some beiges, some greens, some burnt oranges, like a sienna kind of color. Yeah, so that's sort of my color palette. I mean, that is very much my brand coloring as well. So that was pretty easy for me to just translate that into my Notion. But if you're just doing this for personal reasons, go ahead and just pick your favorite colors, or you can go to a site like, I believe it's pronounced Coolers. I'll put the link below. That'll help you come up with like a color palette that works really well together. You can also go to Pinterest, find some color palettes, whatever works for you. Once you've established those 3 colors, try to stick with them throughout your Notion, whether you're using them in fonts or as background color blocks, or in your images. That is really gonna be like the ultimate thing that's just gonna kind of bring everything together. So I would really encourage you to try to be super intentional about using those same 3 colors. So once I have my color palette in mind and I have some images to work with, that's when I'll usually venture outside of Notion to create my own graphics, my own headers, and import them into Notion. Now, can you only use the features inside of Notion to create that aesthetic Notion? Sure, but you will find that you are pretty limited in terms of what Notion's gonna allow you to customize. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some great templates out there that are utilizing just the features within Notion, but if you really wanna elevate it, really make it your own, then I encourage you to go to Canva or go to some other sort of like simple design program and just make your own headers, make your own graphics. You don't have to make a lot of them, but they will make a huge difference in your overall theme and your overall look of your Notion. So I'm gonna go through and show you some of the graphics that I made. So at the top of this dashboard page here, I wanted to make this dashboard sort of feel like a portal. So I have like a little portal welcome with like my own profile picture, if you will, as well as a greeting. And then you're gonna see that I use this same font throughout all of my graphics, because again, consistency is key when creating an aesthetic. So I picked out this font. This is the font that I use in my business, but Canva has a lot of great free fonts for you to choose from. This is my business logo, so obviously I incorporated that. And then underneath that, I created some headers to break up the different sections of my system and to help organize them by topic. So that's another thing to consider when creating graphics, especially if you're doing like a header graphic. Try to stick with something that you know that you're not going to be changing, because you don't want to have to be like toggling between Canva and Notion to create new headers like every week. So stick with things that you know that you're not going to be touching, you know that are going to be sort of the foundation to your planner. And then you can use Notion's headings for things that maybe you are going to change a little bit, might change the wording of every now and then. But when it comes to things that you know you're not going to be touching, that's where you can get creative and create your own graphics. All right, so underneath that, I created my own banner, which is another way to help visually break things up and also to make it feel like your own. So Canva has its own divider feature. It's just a simple, minimal gray line, which is great. I use that all the time as well. But I like to every now and then create my own custom banner. I actually have 2 banners in this one. I have got just 3 simple lines, and then the second one is this affirmation banner, and that's a great way to help break up a section. I've even used banners that are like an image, or you can play with like patterns. So adding a custom banner is a fantastic way to incorporate your own theme, your own vibe. And then underneath that, I do have like some more header type graphics that I've created. And this is to break down my quarterly goals that I have for myself for my business. So I just have 4 of them. But as you'll see, the graphics on this dashboard page do really make up a large component of how this dashboard looks. I mean, without them, I think that would really change like the overall look and vibe of it. So like I said, incorporating some custom graphics is really gonna set your Notion apart. They're pretty simple to come up with. I mean, Canva has a ton of templates that you can use. And you could just take those images you already sourced from Unsplash, put them into a custom sized project, and then just slap like a text over it. You can keep it pretty simple, but still elevate it just by using like an image in the background and some text. And then last but not least, the other element I would recommend incorporating into your dashboard if you want to get that aesthetic look would be widgets. So I actually don't have any widgets on my business planner, but let me show you some widgets I have on my life planner. All right, so in this top section here, I've got 2 widgets. I've got a little time widget as well as a calendar widget, and they were both free. I both customized them to incorporate colors that I am using throughout this planner. I will link these widgets as well as a few other recommendations for some other widgets below in the notes, so check those out. All right, guys, that concludes my tutorial on how to create your own aesthetic Notion. Hopefully you got some tips and inspiration, but if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments section and I'll do my best to answer them. I would so appreciate if you guys could like, subscribe, do whatever else you gotta do to support me on YouTube. That'd be great. Wish you all the best of luck with making your own Notion, and happy planning.